We are here on the defendant mother's objection to the referee opinion and order that was issued on November 26, 2025. At the motion hearing in January, the court limited this hearing to evidence that was not available at the time of the referee hearing. Ms. Rathburn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to waive the closing argument since I've already filed my objection. And
the opening arguments, do you mean?
Yes, opening argument. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I would like to do a closing argument and to do summation of reconciling the transcript to the referee's order and the testimony from this morning. I don't know, Mr. Carpenter wanted to do an opening statement.
I'm fine with waiting.
Okay. All right.
Well, I'd like to have Adam Scott testify, please.
All right. Mr. Scott, would you raise your right hand? Would you state your name and spell it for the record?
Adam Scott, ADAMSCOTT.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Well, Mr. Scott, you were under oath and testified at the prior hearing. And as part of that previous testimony, you testified about your bout with cancer. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
Okay. And what specific cancer were you diagnosed with?
I was diagnosed with stage 3 to 4 squamous cell. Squamous cell carcinoma.
Okay. And it was on your tongue?
Yes.
Okay. And by the time that we conducted the August 8th, 2025 hearing, you were back in exercising parenting time. Was that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, after that hearing, did you have some type of follow-up treatment or some types of follow-up issues that interfered with your ability to exercise parenting time with Al?
I did. That was during radiation and chemo. Chemo, I did not have very many issues with, besides a little bit of nausea the first treatment. Radiation problems didn't start happening until after about week 3. I lost my sense of taste entirely, just turned off, and then it caused me to not want to eat. About 2 weeks after that, I was getting placed on a feeding tube, but by that point I had only had 2 very small plates of food, so I had lost a major amount of my energy to be able to get up and out of bed and do things. So it made it very difficult for me to get up and out of bed and go pick Al up for 3 short hours, but I was still doing my best to go and pick him up on weekends.
Okay. So would you say about September 23rd would have been a date that you might have stopped doing the regular parenting time?
It's possible, depending on what might have happened, because September 19th was the day I lost my taste and started having more significant issues.
And then would have been, what do you recall the date in November that you would have started parenting time back up with the schedule that was per the court order before the referee decision?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes. Do you recall if it was about November 4th that you resumed your parenting time schedule?
Yes, I had started being able to tolerate more of my own tube feedings because I was having issues with my gag reflex. It was not allowing me to actually hold any of my tube feedings in. If I breathed wrong, I would actually reject whatever I had input, even though I did not try and swallow anything. It would just come up. So it took a while for me to actually be able to hold anything down, to hold the Doesn't have
Mr.
energy to go do anything.
I'm sorry to
So,
interrupt. Mr. Carpenter, your internet's been having some glitchy problems. I don't know, maybe if you should restart. Ms. Vandeler, you can take us off the record.
Mr. Scott, what I was getting to though is I was looking for a specific period of time where you stopped visits with Al, not because you didn't want to see him, but because your physical health interfered. And I was looking to narrowing that down from a period of September to November. Is that accurate?
that would be accurate.
Okay, and because of that, you missing time, did Anne agree to give you some makeup time around Thanksgiving last year?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, now, part of the testimony too was that, you had missed some of Al's tube feedings. Was part of the testimony at the last hearing, do you recall that?
Yes,
All right, and do you continue to miss some tube feedings as this has moved forward?
we have missed some, only when we are out and about doing things where he is actually eating real food. And when we get back, we resume tube feeds at a normal schedule. I'm trying to push him to try and eat more normal foods and try and work towards getting him off from the tube. So that is why she ends up with getting tubes back. But since there is now an issue with that, I have made sure he gets them no matter what. And I don't believe she's had any return to her since that was brought to my attention.
So with this theory though of getting Al to eat normal food and to, pretty much, move him off of a feeding tube, is that something you've raised at medical appointments, with the nutritionist or his doctor?
I believe that's been the goal the entire time since he's been put on it, is try to move him towards that.
But no, my question is that something you've specifically raised at medical appointments?
Yes, we both done that when we were together and after we split.
Okay, so it's your testimony that as of today, the doctor is encouraging both of you to take steps to wean him off the tube?
I would say so. I mean, it's not a permanent condition. I mean, they don't have any cause for him to not be eating food. It's just his avoidance. We have ABA to try and work him towards getting back to eating food. And he eats snacks and stuff like that. It's just normal foods that he struggled with. His mom says that he eats pork chops and things over at her house, and he does like peanut butter toast and things, but that's not an actual meal. And that's what I'm trying to work towards getting him back to eating, because he used to eat steak, pulled pork, eggs, and it's not like that anymore. And I'd like to get him off that tube so he can live a more full, normal life.
But at this moment, is he eating enough other foods that he gets the nutrition he needs to grow and stay healthy without the tube assistance?
No, that's why he gets the other 3 tube feedings throughout the day to ensure that he is still getting the quality nutrition throughout the day.
Okay. So what I was looking at also is Al has ABA therapy, correct?
Correct.
And have you been able to continue to accommodate the ABA therapy at your house?
No, my grandparents are very private people. They don't really like visitors, just because of their health reasons. They get worried about, getting sick. My grandfather, especially, he has COPD, and whenever he gets sick from a cold or something, it quickly develops into bronchitis or pneumonia. And so we have concerns about that. So typically visitors don't come over. So I've made extra steps to bring Alan to Francesca, like, I believe just this past Monday, the 9th, I brought him to the office to do an in-person visit.
Okay, but do you understand why ABA offers in-home services?
Yes, I do.
And what would you think is the purpose of them coming to your home?
Well, make sure it's a safe environment and, you know, he has everything he's needed and taken care of.
Well, and would you think it would be also to observe and assist a parent to ensure that the help and assistance that they're giving, such as directing for Al to have visual calendars in the house, that they could see that and make sure that things are going the way that they're recommending?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but if they can't go to their house, how to your house, how can they verify that information?
They can ask me. I'm a very honest person. I'm not hiding anything. I have no reason to hide anything.
Okay. Now, is it your understanding that Al is gonna qualify for additional ABA services over the summer?
I believe for CTC,
CTC, yep, and then also, I think he was going to do a different schedule this summer than what he did last summer?
yes, I believe his mother said there was like a 3-hour schedule from 9 to noon, which that might cause some issues and contradictions with my work schedule. For CTC, the other one I am not aware of.
Oh, the other one you're not aware of?
No,
Hold on, I'm sorry, I lost track of, I had my stuff right out here. Let's look. Therapy and fun on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, is that something you're aware that he's gonna have this summer?
and is that for the 3 hours?
Yep, 9 to noon.
9 to noon? Yes, that is what I'm aware of.
Okay. And then, I mean, other than having Ann help, would you have anyone else that could help you transport Al in the middle of the day to these things?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay. All right. And just questioning, also, does Al have issues with speech?
Yes, he does. He has an issue with speaking up and being more vocal about what he needs at times. He is getting better enunciating, um, being more clear with what words he's saying. It's just sometimes his requests aren't very clear.
Now,
Like it's
is it,
not.
has through ABA or the school that they've issued him a device to help him vocalize when he's not speaking clearly for people to understand him?
Yes, I believe they have something for him at school in ABA.
Okay, is that something that you have at your house?
I do not. He usually speaks fine with me. I can get him to speak up and talk fine with me.
Okay. I don't believe I have any other questions of him, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Carpenter?
Thank you, Your Honor. Adam, I want to just ask you a few questions, and I want to remind you to project your voice towards the
Mhm.
monitor rather than towards me, because it makes it easier for everyone to hear you when you do that. When you adopted the new schedule that referee Kessler had ordered, how did that go?
It was a little difficult at first, just for making adjustments to my work schedule, but I've been able to adjust and make it work. The transition period was different for Alan, but he adjusted, I'd say within 2 weeks, he became accustomed to it. And yeah, it's been going well since then.
Okay, and from your son's perspective, he adjusted well?
Yes.
Okay. What else, did you have any other concerns other than, adjusting to the schedule or addressing your own health considerations?
It's made it difficult on me because I get the 2 days off every other weekend, when I have my son. And then my grandparents will stay with him while I get up about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I'll work a few hours, bring him to school or ABA therapy, go back to work for a few hours, then pick him up from school or ABA, and then that's the end of my day. And then I'll repeat that while I'll be going. So I'll be getting up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and going to bed at 10 o'clock at night and doing that throughout the week. And then in order to make up the rest of my hours, in case I can't do that, I have to work 14-hour shifts. So it can be a lot as far as my energy levels because of all the treatments and everything. So, but other than that, it's something I can handle over time. It's
And
just-
what is your prognosis as far as your future cancer, treatment?
So far the outlook is good. I was recently put into remission through my first clear scan. I have another one next month to see if it's going to remain in remission, and they're going to be doing those scans over time. The chance of recurrence is highest within the first 2 years for my particular type of cancer.
Okay, but so far it's looking good?
So far, yes.
Okay. And what's it been like co-parenting with your son's mother?
After the evidence, or the last hearing on August 8th, it was a little rough. We ended up in the hospital. Our son had broke his arm right after I picked him up, so we had to go and get that dealt with. And we started co-parenting actually very efficiently. And we were there for him, making sure he was taken care of. And we were able to talk, communicate. We were even having conversations for 20 to 30 minutes during drop-off times, when before it was just, here's the stuff, I love you, have a good weekend with your mom, and I'll see you next week. And then as soon as the order changed, then it just 180 and went completely back to not talking, no real communication, short emails. And actually we've spoken one time in 2 months.
Okay.
And
Have you noticed a pattern where you're able to get along with the mother, except when there's litigation pending?
yes,
Okay, is it your expectation that after this objection to Referee Kessler's order is dealt with, that you will resume co-parenting?
I would like to hope so.
Well, based on your past experience, has that been the pattern?
If there's nothing going on, I believe that things would continue as normal. There might be more communication regarding our son. Yes.
Okay. I just want to remind you, I don't know if the judge and the opposing counsel are having trouble hearing you, but
Yeah.
try to address the monitor rather than me.
Yes.
How has your relationship with Al been under the new schedule? And just to be clear, when I say new schedule, the schedule that Referee Kessler ordered.
It's been great. He loves seeing me come pick him up at school. He likes walking specifically out from the office. Sometimes he gets upset that I wait for him in the office. He likes walking with his teachers or his special help. Or when we going to ABA, or when we're doing like for his birthday this past weekend, we went to Chuck E. Cheese. I got to surprise him with that, and we got to be with his cousins and friends. So that was really nice. Overall, he's been very happy. There's very few behavioral issues. He wakes me up, or he doesn't wake me up, and when he comes in when he wakes up. And he always comes and gives me a hug, and he shows me something fun that he's found. He recently has gotten into Rubik's cubes, so that's pretty cool.
As far as transitioning to the more expansive schedule, do you have any instances where he's missed his mother or he's struggled with the new schedule?
Oh yes, and definitely in the beginning, he missed his mother, and it hurt me to say that, I'm sorry, but we have to stay here for now, and I try and make it easier on him by saying, hey, we can go and do this, and it's only a few more days, and I know it was a hard transition for him, and there's a couple other times when am I gonna go see mom, and I'd be like, oh, a couple more days, and then he would be all right. Now that doesn't happen quite so often, but he'll talk about his mom, be like, oh, you love your mom, and he's like, yeah, I'm like, oh, that's good, and then, yeah, that's pretty much all that comes up now.
And that period of transition that you're referring to, approximately how long did that last, if you can recall?
I would say about a month and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
But currently he's doing fine?
Yep, no issues.
Okay, and do you allow your son to reach out to his mom during parenting time if he asks?
Oh, absolutely.
And is he allowed to reach out to you during mom's parenting time?
Especially when he broke his arm, we were doing communication. We haven't done anything like that. Like I said, we haven't, I think we've only communicated through emails. I believe she has me blocked on texting since the order changed. But I would absolutely love to have more open communication where you can get a hold of her. I have a setup on his tablet so that he can call me through a little messenger app directly to me. And I'd like to be able to get that set up for her as well so that he can call her, but I don't think she wants that kind of access from me to her in any way, shape, or form. So that's where it becomes difficult, but if she's open to it, I would like for him to have that.
Okay, based on, I realize there was a period of transition, but based on how things are going now, do you think that the schedule that Reverend Kessler ordered is in your son's best interest?
I think it is. I think he's transitioned well. It might be more difficult in some ways for me and his mother, mainly for maybe his siblings on her time and more for me with my work-life balance. But I'm okay with that sacrifice for him. So as long as he's happy, I'm happy.
And as far as your long-term health concerns regarding your cancer, you talked about your limited energy levels and things like that. Is it your anticipation that you're going to return to normal health at some point in the near future?
I am more or less at normal energy levels. I have the main issue I have right now. I've been battling a migraine for the past month, which is a newer issue, but I was also diagnosed with those back in high school. The only difference is this is on an entirely different side of the head, which is affected from the side I had radiation on. So I have to double check and make sure it's nothing that the radiation did. And it's been pretty debilitating. Today's the first normal kind of day I've had in a month and a half, I'd say.
Even though you're dealing with these migraines, does that limit your ability to care for your son?
No.
Okay, so you were able to power through and deal with child rearing responsibilities even when you have a migraine?
Yes, I bring him to school, I bring him to ABA, feed him, I go to work afterwards and do everything I'm supposed to do.
Do you have any ideas on things that you would like to see that would improve communication with the mother?
I feel we should be able to sit down maybe at least once or twice a month, even if just for 10 or 15 minutes to start with, to just try and work through things, even with a neutral party of some sort. Just to try and work through things. I understand we aren't gonna be best friends, but from the time when our son broke his arm, I know we can talk and get through things. So,
And you mentioned that the mother has you blocked from texting, is that correct?
I'm pretty sure she does. She hasn't responded to anything I've sent her. Even when I responded to emails that she sent me, I've received nothing back.
Okay, so you're willing to communicate with her, but you're getting some resistance from her side, is that a fair summary of what you've
Yes.
testified to?
Yes, she brought our son to a dental visit. Technically on my time, but he was in school, so whoever makes the appointment, can bring him, but I would like to be involved in that. He had no cavities or anything, but I didn't get informed until right as I was picking him up, when I could have been involved in the process. But she used the insurance, oh, he's on Medicaid, I'll just deal with it, bring him, his next appointment isn't until June 23rd, so I'll just bring him to that, we get it done at the same time. You don't have to worry about it, but now he's on my insurance. As of January 12th, there's a clerical error, so it's not dated for the first of this year. But so if he's on my dental insurance now, and I'm supposed to be dealing with it, how am I supposed to be there for my son if she's gonna just undermine me like that and not tell me information? That's the issue I come with.
Would you like a requirement that she be required to share medical appointment information and things like that with you?
At least definitely prior to the day of. I mean, that would be beneficial for me. Yes.
And do you think it would be helpful to use a parenting app like Our Family Wizard or one of the apps that are designed to help divorced or not unmarried parents to communicate?
Yes, because I feel emails take her, it takes her a week to respond to my emails for anything or longer, as is evidence to her not responding to mine over a month now. And whenever she emails me or texts me, it's immediate, So I feel like with my family wizard or our family wizard, we could possibly communicate better. Maybe keep us both in check and allow us to learn how to communicate how we used to.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like Judge McNabb to be aware of that I haven't asked you about?
I don't believe so.
Okay. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Ms. Rathron?
Thank you. Well, Mr. Scott, let me ask you this. When you say that you need to communicate with her and she doesn't respond, isn't it true that that's related to discussions about the house and the equity in the house that you're demanding from her?
I'm not demanding, I'm asking if we can start discussion on it. Just not even angry, I'm just trying to move on with my life, and we own the house here, we can't ignore this forever, so.
Okay, but you sent her a demand letter, correct?
Well, that's part of the process, is you send a
Part-
demand letter,
Okay,
he
but,
hasn't responded to it.
well, but how is that relevant that she didn't respond to that in regards to your communication about Al?
It was sent as a separate matter that has nothing to do with our son.
Okay,
I
so
sent it.
your testimony here today, though, is that anytime you have an Al-related question, she never communicates with you about it.
She will wait over a week to respond to me, and by that time I get our son, or I won't get an answer back sometimes.
Well, what is it? Give me an example of a question that you posed to her that you needed a response to right away when Al was still in your care.
Like with the dental questions, I asked her, why wasn't I informed about this? Why am I finding out right as I'm picking them up. I never got a response to any of that.
Okay, did you know where he goes to the dentist?
He goes to the Peterson Dental, Family Dentist, I believe.
Okay, and those appointments are scheduled 6 months out about, does he have them twice a year?
I believe that was his first one that I was made aware of.
Well, how would you know it was Dr. Peter, you didn't know there was a Dr. Peterson attending to your son's teeth
I
before?
used to go to the same dentist. So I assumed that's where she would bring him, but because we were estranged there for so long, and then when I got visitation, she probably had set up around the times where she had him, so she was already dealing with it. Now I have more time with him, you know, it makes it a little bit more difficult on her end, so there, he ended up on my time, and there was scheduled on my day, so she picked him up and took him, but didn't tell me until afterwards.
Okay, and you're saying that you're open to taking more time off of work and running him to the dentist in addition to this explanation you testified earlier about of having to make up hours and working 14-hour days, you're gonna be able to make time for dental appointments.
I will, yes.
Okay,
I build PTO up over time. Like currently I have 23 or 24 hours available.
okay,
Cause I had to take time off this past Friday due to him not having school. And a doctor's appointment for my migraines. So I have to build up all my PTO, and I have vacation time coming up in June. Where I get granted another 2 weeks. So that's also of use to me, to where I can use that time to go and do that.
okay, so if you take him to the next dental appointment, if that's what you wanna do, you're understanding if there's a balance that you have with that dentist, you'll have to pay that at the time?
Yes, that's my
Okay.
responsibility as well.
So would it make sense to say maybe you alternate taking him to the dentist?
That's fine. I just want to be involved and not be left out of the loop.
All right, and you're aware, this is the first time I'm hearing about the dentist. Did you reach out to your attorney and let him know this was an issue before this morning?
I let him know immediately after it happened. This was a couple months ago.
Okay, and I didn't have any, I'm telling you, as of right this moment, this is the first I've heard about it from you and not from your attorney. If there are other issues regarding communication, is it something that between you and your attorney, you could reach out to me to let me know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'd rather keep it out of these. I do think we should be able to talk about this, but I don't understand what the issue is.
Well,
So I think you should
how-
ask your.
Well, let me ask you this, how many other doctor's appointments does Al have, say, in a 6-month period of time?
I believe he has a doctor appointment on June 3rd, with Dr. Margaret. I'm gonna have to double check in the, my chart app, but I
Okay.
believe that's the
so-
only other one that's coming up. He might have a tube change coming up too, as well.
Okay, and other than the dentist appointment, I'm not hearing your testimony this morning that you don't know any other appointments that he has, is that correct?
Not any that are coming up recent. I haven't seen any. Last one was, his arm. We had some scans done with that. I believe.
Okay. You're aware that the Our Family Wizard cost, that both of you will have to share this cost?
Yep.
Okay. Let me go back here, got quite a bit of testimony. Where's there a period of time, or was there about a week? That Al went to school with just boots?
With just boots.
Just boots, no shoes.
I guess when are we talking about here?
About 3 weeks ago?
I believe he always has shoes at school.
Okay, and if his shoes at school were missing or not there, you never were notified that that was the case?
That's true, yeah. I was never notified.
Okay, and who provides the shoes at school?
His mother had a pair of shoes, but I also have shoes at my home that are available in case they do not have a pair. So all I need to know is if they have a pair or not.
Okay. Have you been able to attend any of Al's school parties, such as the party for his birthday?
No, usually I'm having to make up time at work. Or ensure I don't have to make up more time on the weekend.
Did you know that for Al's birthday at school, they wanted him to bring in treats for the rest of the class?
No. And yes, he was on my time.
Did you have treats for the class for his birthday?
No, I did not, and I will admit that failure. As I said, I've been struggling with migraines. It's not been easy.
Okay, I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Carpenter.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ms. Rathburn.
Well, Your Honor, I'd like to have my client testify here a bit.
All right. Would you raise your right hand? Would you state your name and spell it for the record?
Anne, A-N-N-E, Mcintyre, also Clocklin. Mcintyre is capital M, C, capital I, N, T, I-R-E, also known as Clocklin, and that is capital C, L-O-C-K-L-I-N.
And do you swear, pardon me, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Ms. Rathburn.
Thank you. Well, Ms. McIntyre, you heard Adam's testimony about the period of time that he didn't see Al due to his cancer treatments. Is that an accurate period of time?
Yes, and it was the midweek visits on Tuesday. He did still try to take him on the weekends.
Okay, and you were willing to work with Mr. Scott to ensure that Al was properly cared for, and Mr. Scott was able to recuperate, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. As for Al's tube feedings, is this something Mr. Scott testified that he's trying to wean him off of the tube feedings? Is that your understanding of where you're at with Al and tube feedings at this moment?
We have always tried to get him to eat. However, because we don't know the cause of why he doesn't eat, we don't know if his body absorbs the nutrients. At this point in time, we are still doing the feeds as instructed 4 times a day.
And are you concerned if Al misses feeds during the day?
I do get concerned because he does not eat enough to sustain himself. I mean, a little bit of meat and, graham crackers or chips isn't nutritionally dense.
Yeah. Is it your understanding from, who's the doctor that's overseeing the tube feedings?
The nurse practitioner we work with is Lindsay Drake at Helen DeVos, and then the dietitian is Maggie Horrigan, and she's also in that same office, the neurodevelopmental office at Helen DeVos.
Now, has Mr. Scott attended visits with you to the nutritionist and the nurse practitioner?
He was at the one last year, but that one was discussing more developmental things. At that point in time, they told us to continue the feeds as scheduled. And then that appointment in June that he's referring to is when he'll go back again.
Okay. And last time we were in court, you testified that you had a flexible work schedule. Does that continue to be the case?
It does.
And so what does that mean as far as having this flexible work schedule to work for Al?
It means that I work from home a majority of the time when I have to do office work. When I do have to do home visits, I schedule those around, my children's needs, not just Al's, but all the children, so that I can still take them to school, attend all their events. Oftentimes after the kids go to bed, I'll finish up my paperwork for the day just so that I can be present throughout their day-to-day school things.
Now, have you participated in any events for Al's school since August of 2025?
Yes, because of Al's needs and because he does not have a one-on-one paraprofessional, I attend every single school event, even the ones that parents don't normally attend, like our field trip to Robinettes. It was just the kids and the teacher, but because Alan needs more assistance, I met the school bus there, was able to assist him through the field trip. I did the hawk walk, the Halloween parade, where he did not want to march with his class unless I walked the whole parade with him. But yeah, any sort of special day that throws his schedule off at school, I make sure I'm there just to offer him support.
What about his birthday? What did that look like for a school activity?
On birthdays, because we don't do food, they do hand out, usual little goodie bags. Because Ellen has a love of tornadoes, I made goodie bags that had a tornado tube in them where you attach the pop bottles and the kids can make their own tornadoes at home. So I brought the goodie bags, I printed out all the instructions. He gets to stand up on a chair and they sing him the little birthday song, and then he gets to pass out his goodie bags to his friends during snack time. Just a special thing that they do for kids on their birthdays.
Now, have you been, you listened to Mr. Scott's testimony about having extra shoes at school for Alan. Was it an issue with him only having boots at the school about 3 weeks ago?
It was, his teacher brought,
You can't.
oh, sorry.
You can't say what she said,
Oh,
but to your
okay.
understanding, was it made
Yes.
an issue?
Yes.
Do you know what happened with the shoes that he had at school?
No, I found one in the lost and found. I have no idea where his shoes went.
So have you provided more shoes for him to have at school?
Yes, 2 pairs actually. So she has one set aside under her desk in case the other pair goes missing.
Okay. Now, have you had concerns about how this schedule's been going once it was implemented week to week?
Yeah, because it was very abrupt. And it separates him from his siblings, which was a little concerning to me, and it's concerning to them too. They're teenagers, but they still are like, oh, okay, he's just
Well, you can't
gone.
talk about
Oh,
what they
sorry.
Please.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, just separating from his siblings was a concern.
What about how Alan's been reacting to the new schedule?
He's okay. He's always very happy to come home. He's always very tired. He usually sleeps a lot that first night, and then we get back into our normal routine after that weekend of adjusting.
Okay. And I mean, is it still your position? Obviously, we filed this objection. What do you believe would be in Al's best interest as far as the schedule goes?
I was in full agreement with friend of the court and what they recommended, because that kept Alan and his other siblings together. So that they would transition together. It just seemed more cohesive to me.
Did that schedule allow you to be providing additional care for Alan with your schedule versus with Mr. Scott's?
Yes, because most of the days off he has from school are typically Fridays, and all the kids are home by Wednesday. So, and a lot of times on Friday, I just work from home, if I even work at all, because sometimes I can get everything done before Fridays.
Now, is it accurate? I asked Mr. Scott the question, is it accurate that his ABA therapy is going to change up this summer?
Yes, because currently he goes on Monday and Wednesday, but when we start therapy and fun, that will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we will have to rearrange the ABA schedule to fit with therapy and fun.
Is it your understanding that the ABA therapy that Alan qualifies for, that they'll increase his home-based hours?
Yes, they have the ability to do that, especially over the summer to help with, continuation of learning and so that there's no loss of skills while he's out of school.
And then, do you have issues with the meeting spot at 28th Street?
Maybe not so much the spot, but the time, the time at 6 p.m. And it just seems that both of us are going out of our way to get over there when we could be exchanging just at school or ABA or daycare or what have you, instead of, having to go all the way out there at 6. It also, we have to get right home, and then he's only home for a few minutes before we can start the last feeding tube of the day. And I was just hoping we could find a smoother way to do transitions.
Now, Mr. Scott complained at the end of his testimony that you're not communicating with him. And he brought up the dentist appointment as an example. How do you respond to that?
I forgot that the appointment was scheduled until they called me the day before the appointment. And because I also had a cleaning simultaneously, like Alan and I were both getting our teeth cleaned at the same time. I just took him to the appointment and brought him back to school. And then I updated Mr. Scott, hey, his teeth are good. I was already going to be there to have my own teeth cleaned. And it was literally, I just forgot till they called me. And given that I live 5 minutes from school and the dentist is much closer to our home than Mr. Scott's work, I mean, it wasn't to be a slight. I just know he is not happy with the amount of driving he has to do. He makes that clear in a lot of communication. I didn't think he'd want to sit there with me while I got my teeth cleaned. So if there was anything major, I would have called him, right then and there if they had to do anything, but it was literally just cleaning his teeth.
In the future, do you understand that you have to let Mr. Scott know ahead of time of
Yes.
any appointments if he's not aware? Okay. And would you have any disagreement if he took him to the next dental appointment?
No, that's fine. I'm driving there myself to have my own teeth cleaned, and I honestly don't know whose day it is at that point in time. If he wants to meet us there, that's fine. If it's his day, he can take him, but
As to his Mr. Scott's testimony that you refused to talk to him about things regarding Alan, do you say that that's true?
no, I refuse to discuss the house and assets when we are trying to co-parent with Alan. It always turns back to the house, and I literally have to keep redirecting him throughout text, throughout email, to say we need this to focus on the child, not the other problems. That is the civil case. We will deal with that in civil court. It has nothing to do with our child.
Have you been open to communicating or with Alan when he's with Mr. Scott, or vice versa by FaceTime or other video conference?
Yeah, especially when Adam was very sick following his radiation treatments. Al's to FaceTime, especially because that first day he was expecting Dad to pick him up, and Dad called me and I was at the grocery store, so I quick ran to school and got Alan, and we were able to FaceTime once we got home so he could understand Daddy's stomach hurts, and they had a conversation, and it helped ease the transition.
So moving forward though, is that something you're open to, that Al would have access for both parents to do video FaceTimes?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that something that Mr. Scott has raised the question with you and you've not discussed?
No. This is the first I've heard of it.
Okay. And his request to use Our Family Wizard, are you familiar with that app?
Yes,
And you've used it before, correct?
correct.
Do you think it's necessary in this case?
I do. It was part of the friend of the court recommendation as well.
Oh, okay, so you're in agreement to
Mhm.
implement that. Okay, great. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm sorry, I want to call you by the name you're using. It's Miss McIntyre now?
Yes.
Okay. Um, Miss McIntyre, did you reach out to Adam when you received the unused tube feeding supplies back?
No, because Mr. Scott had sent me an email stating that he did not do all the feeds.
Okay, did he explain why?
He just said he was busy driving, but I feed him in the car every single day with the feeding pump. I take it with me to work if I have to, so that if we have to drive somewhere or if we have an event after school, I can hook him up and he still gets fed.
Okay. So was there even an attempt by you to communicate with Mr. Scott that you thought he should have been giving the tube feedings, or to ask if he had been given alternate food? How did you work through that?
Given that Mr. Scott has attended all the appointments with the dietitian, I assumed he is aware that he needs to be feeding his child. The
Well,
TVs.
do you disagree with Adam's testimony that you guys are supposed to be introducing quote unquote normal food?
Which we do, but you know, I volunteer in the lunchroom. I watch him. He does not eat any food during the school day. He might play with it, but he doesn't accept multivitamins, like no gummies, no anything. So if he doesn't get his complete nutrition, you know, it's a little concerning. Food at this point is more of an introduction to see if we can even find things he likes. And at this point, he doesn't eat enough food to you know, stay healthy.
Okay. Would you allow for the possibility that Adam is having better luck getting your son to eat normal food than you have been?
He has never communicated that. If he would give me a full list of everything he eats, because yeah, like I said, he is exposed to the lunch and breakfast at school. You know, he will eat pork chops. He will not touch any vegetables or fruit. Sometimes I got him to eat 2 bites of a banana at school lunch the other day. But no, I mean, the most we do is offer him what we cook for dinner and encourage him to eat with us and his siblings, but
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you this again, and I want you to just answer my question, please. Would you allow for the possibility that Adam is having better luck getting your son to eat normal food than you have been?
yeah, it's possible.
Okay, isn't this a situation where you should have communicated with Adam regarding these concerns rather than saving it up for your objection?
I was not aware that he was feeding him. I would love to know what he can convince our child to eat because
Wouldn't you agree this
any
is a
luck.
perfect example of the two of you not communicating? I mean, you were concerned about him not getting his tube feedings, but instead of talking to Adam about it, you just put it in your objection and never said a word to him.
I
Wouldn't
did
you
not
agree that's what happened?
feel. I can't hear.
Okay, have him repeat it then.
Can you repeat it? I can't hear. I'm sorry.
Wouldn't you agree that this is an example of you failing to communicate with Adam by not sharing your concerns with him about your son not getting all of his tube feedings?
No,
Well, do you have any reason to suspect that Adam wouldn't tell you about the food he's giving your son if you would have talked to him about it?
I was not aware he was feeding him. He never told me.
But you put in your objection that he missed some tube feedings. but you never talked to him about why he missed them.
He told me in an email he missed the feedings because he was driving. I
Okay,
didn't
fair.
see the point of having an argument with him over it. He told me point blank, that's what happened.
Okay, fair enough. How old are your other children that live in the home?
16 and 13.
Okay, so you would concede that your son is going to have a relationship with a dependent relationship with his father much longer than he's going to have a in-home sibling relationship with your teenagers, right?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I'm understanding.
But your suggestion to the court is that your youngest, that Al should be on the same schedule as his teenage siblings, correct?
Correct.
Don't you think it's more important that he have a good relationship with his father, given his young age and the fact that the teenagers are sort of at a different phase of life?
My children still interact all the time. I mean, my daughter is his favorite person. They play games together, they do activities together. It's not like they are two separate families.
I understand, and I'm not trying to argue with you. I just want to flesh out where you're coming from, because are you suggesting that Al should have less time with his father so that he can have more time with his teenage sister?
I feel like my children should stay together as a family unit because they are siblings. They are not they're siblings. And this is, what Alan was used to, what our family was used to. He still sees his father, he still has lots of vacation time with him, where the other children are with their father. Purely just day-to-day things. To me, it makes sense for him to be with his siblings if at all possible, because that's what was normal for him.
So your answer is yes, you do believe that Al should have less time with his father so he can have more time with his siblings?
I believe my family unit should be as intact as, and it is, there's no nice way to answer this. So I guess, yes, I believe he should stay with his siblings, but not out of hate or spite for his father, just what's best for him in his day-to-day routine in life.
So you seem to be dismissive of the fact that Adam is part of Al's family unit.
He is, but if he is at work all the time and Alan's not even seeing him, then shouldn't he be with his siblings and what he also knows as his family?
Okay, but his siblings go to school and they're getting older and they're going to have social lives and all the things that teenagers do. You concede that of the fact that that's going to be happening, correct?
Eventually, at this point, they don't drive and they're at home pretty much all the time.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Ms. Rathburn.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Any further witnesses, Ms. Rathburn?
No other witnesses, Your Honor.
Mr. Carpenter? Any witnesses?
Your Honor, I think I got everything I wanted to get from my client. He did recall that the reason he didn't provide snacks for Al's birthday is because Al had ABA therapy that day. I can recall him to testify to that if people don't want to simply accept my representation. That's
Ms.
about the
Rathburn?
I don't object to Mr. Carpenter placing that on the record, Your Honor.
Okay,
Okay, so with that, I really don't have any additional witnesses, Your Honor.
okay. And then we'll move to closings.
Well, thank you, Your Honor. I filed this objection on my client's behalf because, for one, I knew upon reading the referee's order that there were discrepancies from what I recall was presented at the hearing versus what was indicated as facts in the referee order. And then also it's my client's base belief that she does not present that she doesn't want Mr. Scott to have any time with his son. It's just that the additional days that he was asking for to make it an equal schedule, more or less, was more for Mr. Scott's benefit than for Alan's benefit. And the focus of this case is supposed to be Alan. He's a child with a lot of special needs. He has a feeding tube. He needs to be fed 4 times a day by the feeding tube. Today's testimony did not expand on that any, that the doctor has said, well, you can go ahead and skip feedings and if you find this food process. I don't think Mr. Scott testified that. He said this is a goal, is that we're looking for doing this. But I think it is still concerning that because Mr. Scott is intent on making this such an equal proposition, that he's unable to provide the sustenance that Alan needs on a day-to-day basis. He skipped feeds. He had too much time in the car driving from Caledonia to his school, to his work. And these were the arguments we placed on the record at the time of the hearings. And so I wanted to present, and I'll go through this now, is that I took some notes with the referee order that specifically we found issue with, that I think affects how the court should be re-looking at this order and revising it potentially. Right away on the referee's order on page 2, she indicates that the plaintiff spent every night with his son. But then, actually, I'm going to skip that one. I'm just going to cross that one off. We're going to move on to the next one. I think one of the big things that the referee pointed out several times is that the parties were not following the order. The temporary order that they had entered back on 10/14 of 2024 was in fact followed. And the referee picks up this thread on several pages. She picks it up earlier on in her overview, and then it comes up again where on page 11 of the order, any other factors, the parties were not following along with the court order. And she references this, that they were exercising some schedule with my client 9 days on and then 5 days off. And then she talked about a different schedule with Tuesdays and whatnot. And it simply was incorrect. At the time that the parties presented testimony and evidence on the record, from this 2/17/2024 transcript, page 11, lines 14 through 17, Liz Hayes testified about the parenting time for my client's older siblings. And it's how I'm looking at this, is that referee Kessler actually took that testimony and applied it to the parties instead of hearing that it was what the older siblings schedule is. And so it's never been a point in contention that was testified during the hearing, is that my client was deviating from that temporary order from 10/14 the entire time, and that didn't happen. They always followed that order. And I think that's again where referee touched on it on page 11 of the order, saying anything else when she was looking at any other factors. And then she brought it up again too with arbitrary compliance with court orders on page 11 of her order. Again, raising this issue that my client was deviating from the court order when that had not occurred. So I think that's a pretty major issue that came up 3 different times in the referee's order of her deviating from a court order, and she never did. Another one that I'm looking at as far as discrepancies is in when referee evaluated the factors. In factor A, she gave Mr. Scott preference because my client would not follow up with communication between the school and the plaintiff for conferences. She isn't trying to strengthen the emotional ties between him and her son. And actually, in the transcript from April 30th, 2026, Mr. Scott testified that he knew that he had to get information from conferences, not from Power School, but that he had to send an email to the school. And he admitted, I mixed up the emails. That's on page 65, line 20, well, no, page 64, line 24, and then page 65, lines 1 through 2. And it also came up in, my client testified about that issue on 2025 transcript, page 42, lines 6 through 11, that he had access to the information. And she also testified that he got information per the school newsletter. That's on the same page 42, lines 20 through 21. And so I disagree with the referee scoring this in Mr. Scott's favor about the love and affection and other emotional ties existing between the parties and the child, and blaming my client for not forwarding email communication when Mr. Scott testified on his own behalf that he had messed that up. I think that factor should have been scored equally. I also have an issue with how the referee scored factor K. As far as domestic violence, she gave a slight advantage to Mr. Scott on that because she indicated that she didn't find my client's testimony about domestic violence to be credible. But the referee left out the fact there was in fact an active personal protection order that the court signed and granted for my client, which is something that does need to be evaluated in regards to domestic violence. And I would argue if she didn't find my client trustworthy or credible with her domestic violence claims, then maybe that factor should have been scored with no advantage to either party. Because then it's specifically looking at domestic violence, and if she didn't find my client credible, that could have been scored in other areas, but that was not the case. When she's looking at the parenting time, oh, and then the other issue that I wanted to raise with the court is holiday parenting time. The referee determined, and it was on towards the last few pages of her, I think it was on the last page, yeah, page 13. She talks about in regards to holiday parenting time, there was no argument made that the recommendations made by FOC were inappropriate. However, my client presented an exhibit, and this is where I was concerned that none of the exhibits were referenced in the referee's testimony or order that she had reviewed the evidence, is that was exhibit number 2. My client had drafted up a proposed argument or a proposal for parenting time that included holiday parenting time, and the holiday parenting time showed the rotation of what the other siblings are on. And so that's in the transcript 2/17/2025, page 33, line 4. That was exhibit number 2. And then further, my client testified about it again, about holiday parenting time on the 2024/25. But the February 17, 2025 transcript, page 45, lines 12 through 15. She again testified about how she wanted the parenting time to line up. And then further, Mr. Scott actually testified on 2/17/2025 on page 59, lines 13 through 15, that he agreed to line up the holiday rotation with Miss McIntyre's other children. And since the entry of the order, the parties have discussed this further, and they are in agreement again to continue the proposal that my client had as far as parenting time. And so, Your Honor, in addition to the testimony today of Mr. Scott, and it's not that his illness is something that I'm looking at that, but I want to make that a negative thing, but I think it's a realistic thing to acknowledge that he had that going on and he missed 2 months of parenting time. Also, his testimony today is again about how his schedule is very hard for him to manage, and that Alan has specific needs such as ABA in-home therapy that Mr. Scott cannot accommodate with his current living arrangement. And that's pretty concerning that ABA won't be able to be in his house at all this summer. In addition to the ABA therapies that are going to be from 9 till noon, that I know my client will work with him because she's going to do whatever she needs to in the long run to ensure that Alan's needs are met. But this is just another reason why overall we felt that an exact 50-50 schedule was not addressing Alan's needs in the best manner. And it shows up again as far as my client volunteering at the school where Mr. Scott cannot. And and I understand he needs to work and he needs to do these things, but for the parent, for my client, she's there and she's providing the shoes and she's taking care of the goodie bags that need to be handed out. And I feel like that was that was not really acknowledged by the referee throughout our hearing. And so, Your Honor, it is our proposal that the court adopt the friend of the court recommendation, which gave Mr. Scott just a little bit less time. And it's just to acknowledge the fact that my client who's at home and has a flexible schedule can be the one to jump up and be there at school when Alan needs shoes or when Alan needs someone to be there to help him be in the parade or not be in the parade. And that having this 50-50 schedule on paper, which maybe makes Mr. Scott feel better, and it really shouldn't affect how he parents, because he does a fine job. That's never been anything my client says that Alan is at risk, although missing the feedings is concerning and she would want him to continue that. I just think it still is not in Alan's best interest, Your Honor. So we'd ask that the court revise the referee order, adopt the FOC schedule and my client's schedule for holiday parenting time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you, Your Honor. Obviously, there was a great deal of hearing in this case. We had several days of testimony. Referee Kessler is a very experienced judicial officer. She's been doing this for a very long time. Ms. Mcintyre is well represented. I will concede that. But Ms. Rathburn seems to be focusing on details that really don't affect the overall picture that Referee Kessler arrived at here. One of the main concerns that Referee Kessler had is, and it was borne out by the testimony here today, Ms. Mcintyre simply doesn't respect the parent-child relationship between Al and his father. And how do we know this? Well, for one, she testified to it today. She thinks that my client should give up time with his son so that Al can have more time with his siblings. She didn't really go into detail there, but I think that's really the underlying issue here. But it's important to back up and look at how this case began. You'll note that Referee Kessler mentioned several times throughout her opinion that Ms. Cocklin has bragged to people that, she's a social worker and she can social work her way out of anything. And we have several examples of her basically manufacturing problems in the co-parenting relationship in order to support, I guess, tenuously at best, her request that she have primary physical custody. I heard my questioning about the missed tube feedings is, I think, emblematic of that. Your Honor, this child, according to the testimony, has 4 tube feedings per day. In all the months that the parties have been exercising this schedule, Al's missed 3 bottles of food. And this is made out to be some crisis. But the real issue here, and when I questioned Ms. Mcintyre about this, she didn't even talk to my client about it. She noted that some of the tube feeding supplies came back that they hadn't been given to the child. And she says, well, my client said that he was too busy or he was driving or something like that. But she admits she didn't talk to him about it. She didn't say, well, did you give him other food in place? And we're talking about a de minimis amount of missed feedings here. But she, instead of talking to my client and working through it the way you would expect co-parents to do, she saves that for her objection and puts in there that, well, my client's missing tube feedings, so therefore she should have more time. My client should have less time. And I think that's part of the problem here. But this case started out with, and again, I don't want to engage in a bunch of mudslinging here, but Ms. Mcintyre had already found a new boyfriend. She used a personal protection order to throw my client out of the home that they bought together, that is every bit as much his home as it is her home. And she didn't allow this child to see his father for 6 months. Or I guess 8 months, it was, and with no regard for the impact that separation would have on this very young child, who's, I believe by any account, too young to understand, why did dad just disappear from my life? And this was something that we touched on a great deal during the hearing, because frankly, I thought that this showed a shocking disregard for the best interests of this child, to just take a father who's been involved every day of this child's life and just have him disappear. Because he was a threat to her and her safety? No, because she wanted my client out of their house so she could move her boyfriend in. My client's son had to lose his father for 8 months, and I don't know what he was told during that period of time. But again, that is a shocking disregard for this child's relationship with his father. Who knows what that child was thinking? Where did my dad go? Why can't I talk to him? My client couldn't even reach out to try to talk to his son because he had a personal protection order. He'd have gone to jail for even attempting to communicate with his son. And again, Miss McIntyre is a social worker. She tells everybody who will listen she can social work her way out of anything. Well, she can social work her way into things too. But again, at some point, the court has to be concerned with what level of respect does Miss McIntyre have for the relationship between this child and his father. I think that the schedule that Ms. Kessler arrived at is the best way to address that. Do I wish the parties would communicate better? Certainly. And I realize that I'm on my client's side here and I tend to empathize with him, but I think it's pretty clear that he's willing and able to communicate and co-parent. And the resistance is coming from Ms. McIntyre's side. If she wants to have better communication regarding tube feedings, well, then she's going to have to talk to my client. But I get the feeling that she's more interested in using missed tube feedings as an excuse to engage in litigation or perhaps to strengthen her case than she is in actually seeing to it that the child is getting his nutritional needs met. And again, my client's understanding is that the tube feedings are not permanent, that the goal here is to transition the child to eating normal meals. My client's working towards that goal. I didn't hear any testimony like that from Ms. Cocklin. I'm sorry, I'm interchangeably using, I didn't hear that from Ms. McIntyre. And again, Your Honor, when we're dealing with the best interest of the child, it looks to me like Ms. McIntyre is more interested in reducing my client's overnights than she is in addressing any specific concerns. If she thinks that fewer tube feedings will be missed by reducing my client's overnights, well, I mean, I guess that's an argument that could be made, but I don't think she connected the dots. It looks to me like she's counting overnights. And that shows a disregard for the child and his needs. As my client testified today, there was a period of transition. He even admitted the child struggled a little bit for a couple of weeks with that period of transition, but now he's doing great. I have raised a couple kids myself. They don't have special needs and they didn't require tube feedings, but anybody who's raised kids, especially more than one kid, knows sometimes the kids are going to eat at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Sometimes kids both have soccer practice or a soccer match in the same night and your schedule gets disrupted. That happens. That's not a reason to limit the child's time with his father. He's going to miss time. He's going to miss feedings in Miss McIntyre's home too. I'm sure he has. But my client isn't keeping track of that to try to use it against her. So I really don't have any of that information. But it's not really possible to keep a child on a consistent schedule all the time when they have other activities and things that they have to engage in. So I believe that referee Kessler's order was appropriate. You can try and take issue with certain tiny details regarding her findings of fact, but I don't believe any of these are facts that affect the ultimate outcome. I don't believe that referee Kessler would have changed her recommended order if she had been reminded that there was some discussion of the holiday schedule during the trial and these other sorts of detail matters. I think she still would arrive at the same result because again, and I'm not here to mudsling, but Miss McIntyre simply doesn't respect the relationship between this child and his father. And the best way to address that is to maximize the child's time with both parents. The recommended schedule does that. And so we would simply ask that referee Kessler's schedule be affirmed and that the order continue in place as is. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Rothburn, did you want rebuttal?
Just quickly, Your Honor, I'll keep
Okay.
it short. I didn't bring this up in my initial argument, but I noted that referee Kessler brought up that my client said she could social work her way out of anything 7 times in her decision. There was only testimony from Mr. Scott and his witness Tessa that mentioned that. And to my reckoning as an attorney who's been practicing for 30 years, I don't know what advantage the social worker would have in a court case. There was discussion about Mr. Scott not being able to retain an attorney at the beginning and all of this other stuff, but I found that to be a red herring that grabbed more attention and time than what it really needed, and I wasn't gonna get into it, but I don't find that to be, from my point of it, a credible argument. And this tube feeding thing, it's a doctor diagnosis that he needs this nutrition 4 times a day. And it is concerning if they're getting skipped, and Mr. Scott could have had some culpability in mentioning to my client as well. But I think if the parties get the Our Family Wizard, I think that would be helpful for both of them to open up additional communication. It's not my client trying to lock him out or not be a co-parent with him. She's explained about the 1 dental appointment, and otherwise he's on track with being hand in hand with her on all the other issues. And in this June appointment, maybe he can bring up with the doctor his thoughts about tube feeding, but I think it needs to be doctor supported, not Mr. Scott initiated. And again, it is a concern that we brought up. But I think again, with Mr. Carpenter's arguments, is that the time alone with Mr. Scott on paper isn't accounting for the time that Alan is actually with him. And I don't know if there was something about overnights, that wasn't my client's main gist. It was just that she has easier accessibility and time to be with Alan when he needs a parent. And Mr. Scott can't always do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.